I'll first of all give you a rough idea what is the meaning of limits or class intervals. Huh? Children, in school also, when they started teaching you this chapter, they must have used this term, raw data. Do you all remember raw data? Anisha? No. This is the first thing that you must be learning when you start with statistics. Even in class 8, you had the same chapter and the same topic, raw data. I don't know how many of you have paid attention when your teacher was teaching you this. Raw data, and then comes arrayed data. So if I directly teach you the concept of class intervals or lower limit, upper limit, or the mid value or the class mark, it will go above your head, just like Brickley bouncers, it will go. Okay, so rather than doing that, let's learn from the scratch. That is class 8 portions. All right, so here I'm going to give you a set of numbers. See this? 3, 1, 5, then 9, 13, 14, 19, 22, then 16, then 15, then 20. All right, this much is enough. Yeah. I have given you a set of numbers, right? 3, 1, 5, 9, 13, 14, 19, 22, 16, 15, 20. Children, imagine these are the marks which my student scored in maths out of 25. All right. These are the marks which my students scored in maths out of 25. Can you tell me what is the number of students who appeared for the exam? How many students appeared?
Marks,
Yeah.
how many are there? That's the number of students.
What man?
Say how many numbers are there? That many students.
Exactly. How many ever numbers I have mentioned, that many students have appeared for the exam, right? So 11 marks are there. That means 11 students have appeared for this maths paper. Okay. So so n is equal to 11. Now, I want to read out the marks in the class. Okay, I want to read out the marks in the class. So what I will do is, in order to go in a proper sequence, huh? In order to go in a, in order to go in a proper sequence, what I will do is, I will arrange these marks either in ascending order or in descending order. I will either arrange these marks in ascending order or in descending order. So can you help me to arrange these marks in ascending or descending order? Shall I arrange it in ascending order? Fine. So I'm going to arrange these marks in the ascending order. You all know what is the meaning of ascending order. Smallest to the biggest, isn't it? So the smallest value is what? 1. Then 3, 5, 9, 13, 14, 16 or 15. Yeah, 15, 16, 19, 20 and 22. All the 11 students' marks have been mentioned here. Yes, it is mentioned. Okay, and it is very easy for me to call out the marks now. Avilash 1, Rehan 3, Prajwal 5, and it goes on like that. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, prove me wrong. Okay, prove me wrong once you give the exam. All right. Okay, so I have arranged all these numbers in ascending order. Now, children, in the beginning, I started with raw data and then arrayed data, isn't it? Now, the numbers which I wrote in red color, 3, 1, 5, 9, 13, 14, 19, 22, 16, 15, and 20. Hmm? Was it in a proper sequence? Was it in an ascending order or descending order? No, it wasn't. So those kind of arrangement of numbers where the sequence doesn't matter, whether it is arranged in the ascending order or in the descending order, it does not matter. Those kind of data are known as what? Raw data. You can arrange the numbers in whichever way you want. All right. And the same numbers, when I arrange it in either ascending order or in descending order, then those numbers can be called as what? Or those data can be called as what? Arrayed data. Are you getting it? On the second page in your textbook, Selena, they have given you the definition of raw and arrayed data. You can just go through it. All right. Whatever they have given, I have just simplified it and taught you. Are you getting it, children? Huh? Online students, everyone understood what is raw and arrayed data? Very simple. When the data is not in a proper sequence, that means neither in ascending nor in descending order, you simply call it as what? Raw data. But at the same time, when the same data, and when the same data is arranged in either ascending or in descending order, it becomes what? An arrayed data. Things are clear? All right. Now, children, the next thing which I'm going to teach you is class interval. Class interval. Class interval. I have arranged all the data in ascending order. The first class interval that I'm going to put is 0 to 5. The second class interval is going to be 5 to 10. The third class interval is 10 to 15. And the last one is 15 to 20. I'll take one more, 20 to 25. No problem, right? So I have taken 5 class intervals. For the first time, you may be hearing this word class interval. So let me give you a very brief idea about it. Okay, because if you don't understand class interval in class 9, I'm telling you, when you reach class 10 and you are asked to draw ogive or cumulative frequency curve or histogram, you will find it very difficult to do. All right, and even in finding arithmetic mean, or median or mode. There are several things which you are going to learn in class 10. At that time, the most basic thing that is going to be seen is class interval. So at that time, you shouldn't be facing any difficulty. Okay, fine. Now, what is the meaning of class interval? Children, with reference to this ascending order, I'm going to ask you questions. You give me answers and automatically you will be learning the concept also along with that. Okay, 0 to 5. Can you tell me how many students have scored from 0 to 5? 3 are there. Which are those students? One is the student who got 1 mark, the other one is 3 marks, and the other one is 5 marks. Isn't it? The other one is 5 marks. So you all are saying there are 3 students who have scored 0 to 5 marks. Right? Now, let me tell you, your answer is wrong. Let me tell you, your answer is wrong. Now, the reason why I asked you this question is you said you have completed this chapter in school, or at least started this chapter in school, isn't it? Completed. So I was expecting you all to recollect whatever you learned in school and give me the right answer, but nobody did it. Thank you so much. So now I have understood your idea is not very clear. So let's make it clear over here. Okay, I'm not blaming anyone. It happens, children. Okay, I'm not blaming anyone here. Fine. Now, when I teach you class intervals, remember there are two types of class intervals. How many types of class intervals? 2 types of class intervals. Okay. You also can note down whatever I do on the screen, children. Okay. And you just mentioned rough note. Okay. Rough note. 2 types of class intervals. The first class interval is continuous class interval. The other name given to you in the textbook is exclusive class interval. Exclusive. And the second type of class interval is discontinuous class interval, which is also known as inclusive. Which is known as inclusive. All right. There are 2 types of class intervals. One is continuous, which is also named as exclusive. And the second one is what? Discontinuous class interval, which is also known as inclusive. Okay. Children, just a minute. The first one, continuous class interval. For that, I will write a few class intervals over here. Without illustration, you will never understand anything, children. The same class interval which I wrote above, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 22, 20, and 20 to 25. If I ask you for the first class interval 0 to 5, children, for the first class interval 0 to 5, what is the lower value? Upper value? The lower value is named as the lower limit. Can you please make a note of this? The lower value is named as the lower limit. And the upper value is known as the upper limit. As simple as that, children. Nothing to mug up. You just need to remember the lower value is the lower limit and the upper value is what? The upper limit. Okay. Now my next question is, for the second class interval 5 to 10, what is the lower limit? What is the upper limit? 10. Very good. So this is your lower limit and this is your upper limit, UL. Okay. Now you have a look over here. The first class interval was 0 to 5 and the second class interval is 5 to 10. If I say that the upper limit of the first class interval and the lower limit of the second class interval are the same, will you all agree with my statement? Yeah, you all will agree with my statement. Because if I ask you what is the upper limit in the first class interval, it is 5. What is the lower limit in the second class interval? It is 5. That means when you are continuing this journey of class intervals, once you are done with the first class interval 0 to 5, you are continuing with the same value to start your second class interval. I repeat, whatever value you are ending your journey for the first class interval, the same value you are using to start your journey for the second class interval. That means you are continuing with the same value, which is 5. Yes. So children, these kind of class intervals where the upper limit of the first class interval and the lower limit of the second class interval matches, they are known as continuous class interval. Very easy to remember. It's just continuing. Okay, wherever you are ending, you're continuing with the same value for the next class interval. All right, so that is why this name is given to you. Continuous class intervals. Okay, now there is a speciality of this class interval. Online students, please interrupt me and ask your questions, okay? As I always tell you, don't wait till the end because you will forget your doubts and I will forget what all I taught. Okay, now there is one speciality of continuous class intervals. You know what it is? When I say 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and so on, the upper limit of a class interval, whatever value comes as the upper limit of the class interval, that will be never considered for counting. Okay, I repeat, whatever is the upper limit of the class interval, that particular number will never be considered for counting. Okay, now I'm gradually coming to that question which I asked you initially. You will get some hint that why did I say your answer was wrong. What did I say over here? 0 to 5. The upper limit is what? 5. But the upper limit number will never be considered for counting. So here the number 5 will not be counted. For the second class interval 5 to 10, what is the upper limit? 10. So that number 10 will not be considered for counting. All right, so here I will just write 10 and a cross mark. That means 10 is not counted in the second class interval. Similarly, for the third class interval, 15 will also not be considered for counting. Now, whatever I said, whatever statements I made, using that, I will scroll up and I'll repeat the question. Can you tell me how many students have scored in the class interval 0 to 5? Only 2. Why? Because there is one student who scored 1 mark. There is another student who scored 3 marks. There is another student who scored 5 marks. But as I mentioned a while ago, will the number 5 be considered for counting in the first class interval? No, children, it will not be counted. Okay, so from the 0 to 5, there are only two students who have, sorry, there are only two students who are coming in the class interval 0 to 5. Now, it's quite natural, no, children? It's quite natural that you will have a question in your mind. If 5 is not considered in the first class interval, then where it will be considered? And your answer is right below the first class interval. Which class interval? Second class interval. Because if you notice, the second class interval is what? 5 to 10. So the lower limit is considered. The lower limit is considered for counting, just that the upper limit will not be considered. Just remember this one single point and you're done with it. Okay, so now can you count and tell me in the second class interval how many students can be adjusted? Yeah, 5, isn't it? 5 can be counted here, then 9. Are there any more students who have scored from 5 to 10? No, isn't it? So there are only 2 students who are coming in the class interval 5 to 10. Easy to understand? Huh? Your doubt is clear, no, children? 5 is not considered in the first class interval because 5 is the upper limit. So you have to shift yourself to the second class interval so that there you can accommodate the number 5. Okay, now 10 to 15. In 10 to 15, 10 will be counted, but 15 will not be counted. So children, the first one is 13, second one is 14. Shall I consider 15? No, 15 is not considered, isn't it? So there are only 2 students coming in the class interval 10 to 15. Okay, now 15 to 20. 15 to 20, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 20? No. Why? Because 20 is the upper limit. Huh? So 20 will not be counted. So the number of students who come in the class interval 15 to 20 is 3. All right, it is 3. Now 20 to 25, how many are there? 20 and 22, again 2. Accommodated all the students? You have a doubt, no? Whether all the 11 students have been accommodated in these class intervals. Let's take a count of all these students. Children, 2 plus 2, 4. 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 3, 9. 9 plus 2, how much? 11. Are all the 11 students accommodated? Yes, they are accommodated. The only point which you have to keep in mind regarding continuous class interval is the upper limit number is not considered. Okay, am I clear with this? Fine. Children, please make a note of everything. Okay, Aaron. Mayur, Dikshit, Devaditya, Dikshit, again you are in the car. Man, half of your life goes in your car only. Dikshit?
Sir, no, sir. Today I was going to shopping, sir.
Oh, since you are going to Kerala tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to wear? Mund.
Sir?
What are you going to wear in Kerala? Mund.
Means, sir?
Mund. Mund. You don't know what a mund is? Dhoti,
No,
dhoti.
sir.
Dhoti, dhoti.
Dhoti means only in one temple, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine, Dikshit. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Don't wear a dhoti and go, okay?
No, sir. Only in Guruvayur or something they said, sir.
Oh, you're going to Guruvayur also?
Yes, sir.
Amazing, yeah. Nice trip. Okay. You all noted it? Fine. So you learned what is a class interval. How many types of class intervals are there? How many are there, Prajwal? How many class intervals are there? 2. Which are they, Namrata? Which are the 2 class intervals? Continuous and discontinuous. In continuous class interval, the upper limit of one class interval will match with the lower limit of the next class interval, isn't it? Yeah. And in continuous class interval, the upper limit value is never considered for counting.
So,
Yes.
could you tell me this the difference between continuous and discontinuous one? Because
Continuous is over Animesh, now I'm going to teach discontinuous. Everything is recorded, man. I'll send you the recordings. Okay, the last 15 minutes.
Joined 5 minutes late today. I mean, not 5 minutes, 10 minutes late.
25 minutes.
I did not join now. I joined around 5 minutes ago.
So 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's recorded. Don't worry, Animesh. It's recorded, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So continuous part is over. Now we are going to learn what is discontinuous class interval. Okay. I have to teach you one more important concept, which is known as class mark. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll teach you class mark for continuous class interval and then move on to discontinuous. That will be a good option. Okay, the next topic, children, class mark or the mid value of a class interval. Every time you don't have to use this complete phrase, no, mid value of a class interval, just to shorten your effort, they have used the word class mark. Okay, from the word itself, you must have understood what I'm trying to teach you. Mid value of a class interval, 0 to 5, then 5 to 10, then 10 to 15, and so on. All right, let me find the mid value of the first class interval 0 to 5. How will you find the mid value of 0 to 5? Very simple, children. Just take the average of the lower limit and the upper limit. I repeat, just take the average of the lower limit and the upper limit. So the lower limit is 0, upper limit is 5, and the average of 0 and 5 will be 0 plus 5 divided by 2, which is equal to 2.5. Note it down. I hope I'm clear, children. 0 plus 5 divided by 2, which is equal to 2.5. Let's find the mid value of 5 to 10. How will you find it? The average of 5 and 10. So 5 plus 10 is what? 15. And 15 by 2 is what? 7.5. This is known as the mid value of a class interval. And the term mid value can also be replaced with class mark. Okay. Yogita, did you follow everything so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lima?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Asra, Mayur, Terence, everyone? Aaron, Abby?
Yes, sir.
Devaditya? Okay. What is the class mark of
Yes,
the
sir.
third class interval? 10 plus 15 divided by 2. How much is 10 plus 15? 25. So 25 by 2 is how much?
12.5.
12.5. This becomes the class mark. Okay. So that part is also clear. All right. Now, let me start with the next topic, that is discontinuous class interval. Discontinuous class interval. I will write an example here. 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, then 30 to 39. Okay, 4 class intervals I have written. Now you have to observe these 4 class intervals and tell me what difference did you find? I repeat, what difference did you find in continuous class intervals and this one? Exactly, the upper limit of the first one and the lower limit of the second class interval are not matching. Similarly, the upper limit of the second and the lower limit of the third one are not matching. And it goes on and on, isn't it? So this is the meaning of discontinuous class interval. You can also call it as what? Inclusive class interval. I have already made you write it on top. Okay, it must already be there in your book. Okay, discontinuous is known as inclusive class intervals and continuous one is known as what? Exclusive class intervals. All right, but nobody in the examination is going to ask you these terms. What is inclusive and what is exclusive? You just learned what is discontinuous and what is continuous. That's enough. Okay, now children, Based on discontinuous class interval, I have to teach you some important facts. Okay, teach you some important facts, because in your textbook, first exercise, question number 5 and 6, they have asked you to find the actual lower limit and the actual upper limit. So if I have to reach there, or to teach you the concept of actual lower limit and actual upper limit, I have to go through multiple steps. Out of which, let me take the first step. Children, here the upper limit and the lower limit are mismatching. So first of all, I'll be teaching you how to convert, I repeat, how to convert a discontinuous class interval into a continuous class interval. One of the most important topics of class 10, because in class 10, no matter you're dealing with arithmetic mean, median or mode, no matter you're dealing with arithmetic mean, median or mode, you will have to use continuous class intervals. So there are times your teacher will give you questions based on discontinuous class interval, and you will be forced to convert it into continuous class intervals. All right. So that procedure is taught in class 10, but you are going to learn it in class 9 itself. And how you are going to learn it? By using a term called adjustment factor. There is a term called adjustment factor, and that adjustment factor is usually denoted with small letter a. Can you please make a note of this? Conversion of discontinuous class interval to continuous one by using an adjustment factor, which is small letter a. Note it down. Noted it? Now, what is an adjustment factor? Let's learn it. Small letter a. First, we will learn how to find the adjustment factor, and then we will learn how to use the adjustment factor to convert discontinuous to continuous class interval. All right, let's go in that flow. So how to find the adjustment factor? Children, take the lower limit of the second class interval, subtract the upper limit of the first class interval. What was the lower limit of the second class interval? It was 10. What is the upper limit of the first class interval? 9. Subtract both the values. Okay, so I will write it here. It's it's lower limit minus upper limit. Okay, lower limit of the second one and upper limit of the first one. Okay, 10 minus 9, and then whatever value you're getting divided by 2. So in this case, it's 10 minus 9 divided by 2. 10 minus 9 is what? 1. So 1 divided by 2. And 1 divided by 2 is how much? 0.5. So this is the adjustment factor. Everyone, note it down. Noted it? Adjustment factor is equal to 0.5. I hope you all noted it. Lower limit minus the upper limit divided by 2. Okay. So I am going to take this class interval. Okay. Yeah. The class interval is this: 0 to 9, 10 to 19, and so on. Now my job here is to convert this discontinuous class interval into continuous class interval. What is the adjustment factor? 0.5, right? I will be subtracting this adjustment factor from the lower limit, and at the same time, I will be adding this adjustment factor to the upper limit. Can you please make a note of this? I repeat, I'll subtract this adjustment factor from the lower limit and add the adjustment factor to the upper limit. What is the lower limit? 0. So I'm subtracting it. What will I get? 0 minus 0.5. Okay. I'm adding the adjustment factor to the upper limit. What was the upper limit? 9. So I'm adding it. So 9 plus 0.5. Same logic I have to apply here also. I'm subtracting the adjustment factor from the lower limit. Here, what was the lower limit? 10. So 10 minus 0.5. And I'm adding the adjustment factor to the upper limit. So 10 plus 0.5. Continue with this operation, children. I want everybody to go through this step.
So I had one doubt.
No.
So suppose if it's 0 to 100 and then 200 to 300, then what will be the adjustment factor for that?
50.
So how will we do that? Suppose I mean, we'll write it 0 to 100. Could you show it?
0 to
Yeah.
100 and 100. Wait.
200 to 300.
200 to
300.
300. What is the lower limit? 200. What is the upper limit? 100. Whole divided by 2. What is 200 minus 100?
100.
100. What is 100 by 2? 50. So the adjustment factor will be 50.
So we will write it as 0 to 150 like that.
No. First you understand this part. Animation. Once I do this, you will be able to understand what you have to do in your example. I am not done with this. No. Let me just complete this. All right. So this part is clear. 10 minus 0.5 and then 10 plus 0.5. Now, the same logic applied here. 20 minus 0.5 and here 29 plus 0.5. Here, which one?
30.
Oh, this is 19, no? 19. Thank you, sir. Now here, 30 minus 0.5 and here 39 plus 0.5. What am I doing here? I'm just subtracting the adjustment factor from the lower limit and I'm adding the adjustment factor to the upper limit. That's all. Now I'm going to write the final values down. What is 0.5? What is 0.5 minus 0.5? It is minus 0.5 itself, no? Isn't it? Hello? 0 minus 0.5 is what? Minus 0.5. 9 plus 0.5 is what? 9.5. Now you tell me what is, this is done. What is 10 minus 0.5? 9.5. What is 19 plus 0.5? 19.5. Now this is done. 20 minus 0.5 is what? 19.5. And 29 plus 0.5 is 29.5. The next one, 30 minus 0.5 is 29.5. And here, 39.5. I'm done with the class interval and I want you guys to tell me, is this class interval looking in the continuous form? Yeah, why? Because for the first class interval, children, for the first class interval minus 0.5 to 9.5, the upper limit is what? 9.5. And for the second class interval, 9.5 to 19.5, the lower limit is what? 9.5. Is it matching? Yeah, it's matching. Okay. See, for the second and the third class interval, 9.5 to 19.5. What is the upper limit? 19.5. See, for 19.5 to 29.5, what is the lower limit? 19.5. They both are matching, isn't it? So this is how we convert the discontinuous class interval into a continuous class interval by using what, children? An adjustment factor. Okay, an adjustment factor. So here, let me just teach you once again. I'll just rewind it. Adjustment factor is found by doing this. The lower limit of the second class interval minus the upper limit of the first class interval divided by 2. Can you please note it down? Adjustment factor is equal to L minus U whole divided by 2. Noted it? Once you're done with the adjustment factor, what you will do? You will subtract the adjustment factor from the lower limit and add the adjustment factor to the upper limit. Go on doing that procedure, and the final outcome is what? This continuous class interval is converted into a continuous class interval. All right. So by this time, in the last half an hour, 40 minutes, I think you have learned what is raw data, isn't it? I'll just note it down here. You have learned what is raw data, isn't it? Then I taught you raw data can be converted into an arrayed data, right? Raw data can be converted into what? Arrayed data. Then what we learned? We learned that the arrayed data could be classified into class intervals, isn't it? The arrayed data could be classified into class intervals. And to teach you class intervals, first I said that there are two types of class intervals. One is continuous and the other one is discontinuous. Okay, discontinuous. The other names which are given to these two class intervals, for discontinuous, it is inclusive. And for continuous class intervals, it is exclusive, right? Exclusive. Then in continuous class intervals, you did not spend much time. Why? Because you know that in the class intervals, the upper limit and the lower limit of two consecutive class intervals are same, isn't it? Are same. In discontinuous class intervals, you learned that the upper limit and the lower limit of two consecutive class intervals are different, isn't it? They both are different. This is what you learned in discontinuous class intervals. In continuous class intervals, after learning this, we learned what is the meaning of class marks. And what is in fact class marks? It is the mid value of each and every class interval, isn't it? And how we found the class marks? Just by taking the average of the lower limit and the upper limit, isn't it? So I'll just note it down. Average of lower limit and upper limit of a particular class interval. Now, here children, in discontinuous class interval, the first thing I think you learned is how to convert a discontinuous class interval into a continuous one. So how do we convert it? We convert it by using adjustment factor, right? By using adjustment factor. Are you all noting it down? By using adjustment factor, right? And how do we use, or how do we find the adjustment factor? It is always the lower limit of the next class interval minus the upper limit of the previous class interval divided by 2. Kindly note it down, children. How do we find adjustment factor? Lower limit minus upper limit whole divided by 2. And once you find the adjustment factor, what you do next? You take the adjustment factor, subtract it from the lower limit and add it to the upper limit. Okay, these are the shortcut ways in which you can remember things. L minus A, U plus A. L minus A, U plus A. What does it mean? Lower limit minus adjustment factor. Upper limit plus adjustment factor. And it goes on. Okay. Aaron, is it clear? Animesh, everyone?
If we subtract limit from the upper limit, then the answer will come in negative, right?
It can come in negative. No problem in doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. Note it down? All right. Now, children, if you have understood so far, let me teach you what is the meaning of actual lower limit, actual lower limit, and actual upper limit. And actual upper limit. This is the very first question asked to you in the textbook. So for that, I will take the previous illustration, previous one, this one. So now listen, this was the class interval given to you, the discontinuous one. You all accept it, no children? This was the discontinuous class interval which I had given to you. So 0 to 9, 10 to 19 and all. This was the discontinuous class interval. Now children, if you ask me, if you ask me, what are the upper limit and the lower limits for this discontinuous class interval? The answer would be 0 as the lower limit, 9 as the upper limit, 10 as the lower limit, 19 as the upper limit, 20 as the lower limit, 29 as the upper limit, 30 as the lower limit, 39 as the upper limit. Are you getting it? If I simply ask you for a given discontinuous class interval, the lower limit and the upper limit will remain the same as we did for continuous class interval. No change in that. But children, if that is the case, then why there is a separate term given as actual lower limit and then actual upper limit? So these two terms will be used only when a discontinuous class interval is converted into a continuous class interval. Remember this point, okay? The term actual lower limit and actual upper limit will be used only when a discontinuous class interval is converted into a continuous class interval. And once we do that conversion, did you notice here, I'm having 0.5. 0.5. This minus 0.5 will be called as the actual lower limit. And this 9.5 will be called as the actual upper limit. Are you getting the difference, children? For a given class interval, be it continuous or discontinuous, for any given class interval, whatever values are given to you naturally, they are called as lower limit and upper limit. But in the case of discontinuous class intervals, we have this habit of converting it into continuous class intervals. So whatever original table is given to you, there it remains as lower and upper limits. But the moment you convert it into continuous class intervals, lower limit will become actual lower limit and upper limit will become actual upper limit. That's the difference. Okay, just to differentiate between these numbers, some term should be given, no? Isn't it? It's just like, two siblings are there. In order to differentiate both of them, you give two different names. Isn't it? Steve and Sean. Isn't it? What if both the children are given the same name, Steve and Steve? Are you getting it, children? So that's the logic in giving different names to two different people. Okay, so here it is simply lower limit and upper limit. After conversion into continuous class intervals, it becomes actual lower limit and actual upper limit. That's it. Online students, everyone followed? Terence, Asra, Devaditya, Aaron, Dikshit, Abhi, Mayur?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear, no? Okay. Offline, everyone understood? Very simple examples I'm taking, children, so that you can, understand. All right. So let's start with the first question of the day. Find the actual, this one or Wait a minute, children. I'll take question number 5 and then do question number 6. Now it is going to be very fast. Tuck, 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 you will give me answer. Otherwise, I'll give you tuck, tuck, tuck with my stick. Either of these two. Yeah. Find the actual lower limit and actual upper limit and the mid values of the class intervals 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and 40 to 49. So first of all, we will write down all the values here. I mean the class intervals here, 10 to 19, then 20 to 29, then 30 to 39, and then 40 to 49. Okay. Are they discontinuous class intervals? Sorry, huh? Are they discontinuous class intervals? Yeah. Since they are discontinuous class intervals, they ask you to find what? The actual lower limit, the actual upper limit. Understood? So I cannot teach you everything in one single go. That's why I said I will teach you from the scratch. That is raw data and reach till continuous and discontinuous class intervals using adjustment factor also. Okay, now it's going to be easy. Children, they are asking you to find actual lower class limit and upper class limit. Let's do it. First of all, you need to convert this into what? Continuous class interval, isn't it? You have to convert this into what? Continuous class interval, CI. So for conversion, what is that factor which you need? The adjustment factor, isn't it? And how do we find the adjustment factor? Not average. It's the lower limit of the second class interval minus the upper limit of the first class interval divided by 2. L minus U by 2. Remember, children, adjustment factor is what? L minus U divided by 2. What is L? Lower limit of the second class interval. What is U? The upper limit of the first class interval. L minus U divided by 2. For God's sake, please don't do L plus U divided by 2. Okay? That's why I'm repeatedly telling this children. Because when I sit for corrections, I come across these mistakes. Okay. So what is 20 minus 19 by 2? It's 1 by 2. And what is 1 by 2? 0.5. Okay. Avilash. Now, what should I do with this adjustment factor? 19 plus 0.5, isn't it? Yeah. Are you getting it, children? It's the lower limit minus adjustment factor. Upper limit plus adjustment factor. So if you want to note it down, just do this. Lower limit minus adjustment factor. Upper limit plus adjustment factor. Note it down, Avilash. L minus A and then U plus A. Lower limit minus A. Upper limit plus A. So here also 20 minus 0.5. Here 29 plus 0.5. Here it will be 30 minus 0.5. And here it is 39 plus 0.5. Here it is 40 minus 0.5. And here it is 49 plus 0.5. Now let's write the final answer. 10 minus 0.5 is what? 9.5. Dash 19 plus 0.5 is what? 19.5. So the first class interval got converted from 10 to 19 as 9.5 to 19.5. Easy? All right. Now children, 20 minus 0.5 is what? 19.5. And here 29.5. Now 30 minus 0.5 is 29.5. And 39 plus 0.5 is 39.5. Here it is going to be 39.5, 49.5. Understood? So for the first class interval, that is 9.5 to 19.5, 9.5 happens to be the actual lower limit. And 19.5 happens to be the actual upper limit. Understood? Huh? Similarly, 19.5 for the second class interval is the actual lower limit. And here 29.5 is the actual upper limit. Easy so far? All right. What's the time? 28, no? So we have 2 more minutes. I will discuss one last thing regarding discontinuous class interval and then wind up the session. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, Tuesday, we will be able to cover the entire first exercise very fast, very quickly, because whatever concept I had to teach, we are done. Okay. Children, one last concept. 9.5 to 19.5. Always remember, children, in discontinuous class intervals, which was the discontinuous class interval? Over here, no? This one. In discontinuous class intervals, you will consider the lower limit to be counted, and you will also consider the upper limit for counting. Just remember this. In continuous class intervals, I had specified, you will never consider the upper limit for counting, isn't it? But in discontinuous class interval, you will consider both the upper and the lower limit for counting. Can you please note it down? Please note it down. Children, first you write continuous. In continuous class interval, upper limit not considered for counting. Prajwal, you are writing upper limit not considered. And in discontinuous class interval, both lower and upper limit are considered. Okay. They are considered. These notes will help you, children, for revisions. Now is it clear? Statistics is getting easy. If the concepts are there, then anything is easy. Animesh, Mayur, Lima. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yogita. Dikshit, Asra, Terence. Where will I show this? Aaron, Devaditya. Is clear for all?
Yeah. He's like better.
Okay, fine. All right, children. So that's enough for the day. In the next session, children, Acha, I wanted to ask you this. Listen, children, before we wind up,